service announcement. These videos have the full intentions to be used as conversational tools and purposes only. Anything that is expressed in these videos and videos before and after has the sole purpose of that reason. I know a lot of this stuff is repetitive. I hope that you can understand that. Again, these are for conversational purposes only. The comment box on these videos is for that purpose. Thanks for watching. What's going on, family? With the intro out of the way, let's jump straight into the show and let's talk about the first obvious thing. Farm trucking agents, 15 minutes of fame they get each night. They will never be able to go out and fish again. Too many people know them, and they have come up with new ways to entertain. And while I am not a big fan of the shows that they've had a complete hour, as I have mentioned in my last video, the ways that they are coming up to spend or use their 15 minutes during the show has been entertaining. And I do wish that they would go ahead and unveil the hearse and let's see what they're going to do with that. I would love to see a big tire or a fast diesel powered something, and we know that's what that's going to be. I would love to see where they're at in that build. But with that being said, Lutz ended up with the fastest golf cart. I do think it come down to gearing. If it would have been a shorter race and Farm Truck could have kept his down, I do think he had the faster golf cart. Yes, top end, Lutz was faster, but I do think in a shorter distance, Farm Truck would have had him. When Jeff wrecked his at the end, luckily he wasn't hurt. It was funny after I found out he wasn't hurt because it was a bonehead thing to do to turn sharp in something that high off the ground. Glad he wasn't hurt, glad they moved on, glad that's over with. It was something different to add to the show. But yet we rode into race night with 41, 42, something like that minutes left in the show, so I knew it was going to be good. There was either going to be a lot of complaining, something exciting, or a lot of races, and I think that we ended up with the right amount of all of that. During race night, the first thing that I want to mention or bring up is the driver's meeting. When Boosted said his car was broke and Monza would have had a call out on him, he retracted it because he said his car was leaking fuel. He said his fuel cell had a big crack in it and he didn't want to take a spot that way. While that itself is nothing that I'm going to say is real new with Monza, he's not about the games, but Chief and them kind of laughingly said, me, Dave, and Sean would have took the spot, and Dave grinned and said, I own it, I would have, and Monza said, he's not about the games and the bullshit, he was there to race. And I do feel like that's the type of guy Monza is, but I know that Chief and Sean and Dave is going to get burned for saying that, and maybe even me for what I'm about to say, but that is kind of what the list has become. We know that the list was made for cash days. The top 5 got spots in cash days, so everybody raced to be in that top 5 to go to cash days. But since the show has come out, that's not necessarily what the list means. It is an hour-long TV show, basically, and you got 10 or 12 guys that want to be number 1 on the list just so they can get on social media or get a sponsor or whatever. It's not as meaningful as it once was. But the games that they play is what gave the show entertainment. It's what gave, this guy backstabbing this guy, and they took it too far, and that's what turned the show into something that nobody wanted to watch for so many seasons. And while there is a fine line of what is acceptable and what we like, I do feel like all of them are staying in that particular spot that we do like. That small ball of stuff that we want to see, I do feel like they are all staying in that. And even the small games that are played to stay in the top 5, I do feel like is okay. I do feel like it is just part of the drama, part of the reality TV show. Now Monza, you take him and put him in the top 3, that same issue, I don't think he would have been as lenient to give the spot away because he knows how hard it is to get it back. I don't think he has a problem at all with the next guy on the list, Boosted or Dominator, whoever it might be. I don't think he has a problem at all calling them out and winning. Not one problem I feel like he has with it. Next thing I want to talk about is Shane. The past 2 weeks he has tried to go off the trailer and race because he knows his car isn't up to standard or as fast as the rest of the guys, and he feels like that is the only chance he has. No rubber on the road, they can't put a faster tune-up in it, and he is more equally matched. Well, it has not worked in his favor. 2 weeks in a row, he has fell completely off the list. As I predicted last week, he is gone. I do feel like that this is not the last we will see of Shane at all. I do feel like he will evolve and he will come back with something faster, or just keep trying. I don't think he's going to turn into the next Reaper at all. I think that's pretty well impossible. But I do feel like this is not the end you will see of Shane. I do feel like he will be back, and I do feel like he will be back this season. But it didn't work out for him. Blowed the tires off 2 weeks in a row, basically the same pass, and he has fell completely off the list. The next thing I'm talking about is Doc, and not necessarily Doc's race, because he shit-showed and Lutz walked off and just completely left him. He said it was a firmware that he installed into his ECU. I don't know. I have no reason to doubt that, but something he said that caught my ear. And I know in real life this has not happened yet, but after Lutz just walked off and left him because of that problem that he had, Chuck come up and called him out, and he told Chuck that he could borrow a set of turbos and he would race him. Meaning Doc, if he had a set of twin turbos, he would race that night. I'm pretty sure it was a joke, but it is the first time that I have heard Doc say on camera that he wished he had turbos. So, is Doc considering adding a different power adder other than nitrous? Pro Charger maybe. Whatever. I would say he would go with a Pro Charger before he went with twin turbos. But, as we've seen, everybody has either fell off the list or went twin turbo at this point. There is only one car on the list right now that is not twin turbo, and that is Doc. So, who knows what the future might hold for the Street Beast. I do think a lot less cubic inches, a set of twins. With Doc's driving, the car would be absolutely unstoppable. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the next 3 races kind of rolled into one with Ryan, Chief, and Dave. And we'll talk about the obvious. Chief's shoes didn't open, and he didn't get stopped. I mean, he did eventually, and I don't think that the Crow was hurt. Although the G's that these cars are pulling and the speeds that these cars is reaching in that 8th and shortly after whatever, I would not have tried it again without going over the car. I don't blame him. Something I have always noticed about Chief's car versus virtually all of the other Outlaws, and I'm talking about across all of the shows. Anytime you get to watch Chief's car make a pass through one camera, and I mean like at No Prep Kings you might see a complete pass out of a car, or at testing you might see the complete pass out of a car through one camera. Any races you see on race night, there's a compilation of about 5 cameras that they link together to make one race that lasts 12 seconds. But anytime you see one long consecutive film of Chief's car, his car seems extremely rigid. And what I mean by that, it is rigid. It's real stiff, real bouncy. It's like it has no give, no spring at all in the car. And I know he really stands behind his shocks. I think it's kinetic engineering, and they're there for a reason. His car is set up that way for a reason, and obviously it works. His car is extremely fast, always has been, and he is always ahead of the curve on whatever he needs to do to keep the Crow at number 1 or the top 3 at least. But the car is extremely rigid. The car was bouncing violently, which I know he was on the brakes as hard as he could push them. Tires were trying to lock up. I know all that, but if you watch it, he wheeled the shit out of that car to keep it from wrecking. He done his job as a wheelman 100% to keep the car on all fours. Keep the shiny side up. He done a good job. But if you can, go back and watch how violently it was shaking, and even at the track the weekend before or test passes, watch how rigid and how stiff the car is, and tell me why he is the only one out of all of the Outlaws, even all of the Outlaws on No Prep Kings, whose car is that rigid and it works. Anybody has an answer to that, let me know. But to go back to the race, him and Dave was side by side all the way. Perfect race. Chief clipped him at the very end by, I think they said a fender, but it looked more like a bumper to me. He barely clipped him at the end, and I thought it was a good race. I love seeing races like that. I love races that you really don't even know who won until they go back with the big end camera, the slow motion camera, and you can actually see it. I love races like that. It's the best ones on the show, obviously. But with me saying that, Ryan turned around and eat Dave alive. I mean, he smoked Dave by 4 car lengths. Dave said he had problems, but Dave always has an excuse, so what do you believe? I don't know if he did or not. I know that Ryan just outrun him, so if you go by Ricer rules, that says Ryan is going to smoke Chief. But Ryan just hasn't seemed like he's had it in him to care very much about it. He has had more things on his mind. I guess it would be winning $40,000 over and over on No Prep Kings. His car is probably set up for that more than it is the street right now, but he had his shit set on kill this week, and it absolutely destroyed Dave in that race. Granted, Dave said that was his first time to have the car out on twin turbos, basically saying that's the first pass it made on twin turbos. There's no way he raced for #1 on the list. That's the first time the car had twins on it. There's videos of him going out and testing the car with twin turbos on it, and shows him starting it up, shows a lot of stuff. There's no way that was his first pass against Chief with twin turbos. It was his first list race, and maybe even his first full pass on the street, but that's not the first time that he had wheeled the car full 660 under power with twins. I don't believe that whatsoever. But back to what I said, Ricer rule says that Ryan has Chief for the #1 spot next week. I do think it will happen. If not, it will be a damn good race. Very, very, very seldom does Chief mess up or anything happen to Chief in his races. I want to say that they said there was 1 or maybe 2 more Street Outlaws list races left. We know next week the Diesel Brothers are going to do the live jump and the Big Mother Truckers shows coming on. I don't know if they're going out of town anymore. I hope they do. That would be a hell of a way to end the season. I want to see them go out of town one more time so bad. That is the biggest thing to me, is not list racing, it's them racing other people. There's so many people that says they're faster than a 405. Go race them. Let them come to you. Do whatever you have to do to race them, to put more content out there for us to watch versus the same guys racing every week. That's basically all I have to say about this episode of Street Outlaws. I do feel like, again, it was a better episode than what we are used to. Maybe not this season, but previous seasons. And that's it, guys. The only thing I want to do is plug my merch. If you haven't checked them out and you're tired of hearing me say it, just go look at them. I think there's some shirts that anybody would like. Go check them out. They're very cheap, they're very comfortable, and I don't think anybody goes wrong by buying them. I haven't plugged them in a while, so there's my plug. Don't get me too hard in the comments, but as always, email addresses across the screen. Anything you want me to know, say, do have. P.O. box is on the screen also. Giveaway is not done yet. I was going to stop by my P.O. box today, and I run off and left my key at home, so I didn't. I've got some emails. I've got a lot of stuff talking about it, asking about it. It's still going. You still have time to be entered. Thanks for watching. Godspeed, and I will see you in the next video.